In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on. Because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else: your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS, official shipping sponsor of the NHL.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Kicking off hour 2 here at Money Moves as we welcome you back to VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Still to come this hour. Going to break down what is a 6-game slate in the National Hockey League, the penultimate night of the regular season before we close everything out on Thursday. Playoffs set to begin on Saturday. Playoffs, or postseason rather, already underway in the NBA, which is where we're going to kick things off. 2 awesome games in the play-in yesterday. The chaos in overtime with the Charlotte Hornets to get it done over the Miami Heat. Excited to break down not only what we've seen already, but of course pushing it forward to how we can attack the slate today and beyond with Noops Christenson, who joins us here on the Progressive guest line. Does a great job as an NBA handicapper over at FTN Network. You can follow him on X as well at _Noops. And we were just kind of talking back and forth a little bit in the break about how awesome it was to see the competitiveness of the games yesterday.
It was fantastic. And, again, as we were talking about, this is my favorite time of the year. We are at the point now where these play-in games, the play-in has been fantastic. Hats off to Adam Silver. I know he gets a lot of nonsense for other things, but this has been great to have these games, not only that matter quite a bit, but to give everyone a week off. I think it's made the playoffs in general better because the top 6 seeds get a week off to rest and prepare for what's going on. And last night was fantastic. I hope tonight's going to be just as good, but those were 2 of the best basketball games we've seen probably all season. It was just absolutely wonderful, and I couldn't be happier to finally be here.
Yeah, it's just a pity that it'll never live up to the Stanley Cup playoffs, right?
Get out of here.
All right, let's talk about some of the games tonight. We'll start Orlando and Philly. We're looking at 1.5s across the board, a smattering of 2s. Totals 224, 224.5. Cider total, what do you like here?
Yeah, as much as I am wearing a Sixers hat and I am a shameless 76ers fan, I bet the Magic earlier. I grabbed a +2. This Sixers team without Joel Embiid, I think, is really going to struggle to rebound the ball effectively. I think it's one of the more underrated things the Magic do well. They rebound extremely well. Without Embiid, they're going to be forced to play Andre Drummond, and they've just really struggled in those minutes. Now, the case for Philadelphia really revolves around Tyrese Maxey and the fact that he can absolutely be the best player in this game. He might be able to drag the Sixers across the finish line on his own. But as wonky as Orlando's season has been, I think now that they're sort of fully healthy here, Anthony Black is back. Everything looks like it's really solid here. They're probably the better team. I made this game a pick 'em. Actually, I had Orlando kind of slightly favored here. So as much as it pains me to say it, I took the Magic.
If Orlando does get out of this thing, how do you think that matchup will ultimately look with the Charlotte Hornets following what we saw yesterday?
I think we'll see the Hornets as favorites in that game, and that makes sense to me. I think we'll see a spread. If I had to guess, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3, I think that kind of makes a little bit of sense. We saw the Hornets close 5.5 against the Heat. I think the Magic are a little bit better power rated there, maybe 3.5, 4, somewhere in that range. But I think Charlotte will be the favorite. I do expect them to win that game. And then, honestly, whoever wins that game, I think maybe they might give Detroit a little trouble for a game or 2. But I think they're just playing for the right to get run over by this Pistons team.
All right, let's talk about my guys. I am not wearing it, but I was earlier today. My own Clippers hat, taking on the Golden State Warriors. We've seen this total dip a little bit. We're now at 220.5. Side was bet up to 5.5. What do you make of the Western Conference play-in 9-10 matchup tonight?
Yeah, I bet the under in this one. Got it at 221.5. I think at 220.5, that's still solid. Really anything 220 or higher seems like an under spot for me here. These are two teams that have a ton of experience in the playoffs. And just a reminder for everybody, when you get to the postseason, everything really slows down, especially in the second half. Teams are taking more of the shot clock to try to get better shots. They are more prepared defensively for teams. This is just a one-game situation, but I think despite how fast the Clippers have played since picking up Darius Garland in his minutes, I think that we're going to see this game be a little slow, a little cagey, especially as the Clippers try to figure out what this Warriors team looks like. You know, we've just had a couple games with Steph Curry back. They're still sort of figuring that out. And at the same time, Kerr has already talked about he is not going to push these guys harder than he really needs to here. They want to win this game, but he's made it very clear he's not going to stretch these guys out. So I think that also indicates that we're not going to see Golden State playing at a higher pace here. So I think the game's going to be slow, methodical. I like the under. I do expect the Clippers to win. Don't really have a strong feeling on the side. Again, with Curry back, anything's really possible with this Warriors team. They still have a lot of upside, but expect the Clippers to win. Instead, I'll just take the under.
Talking postseason with NBA handicapper Noops Christenson on the Progressive guest line. Looking ahead to some of these series that are already set, what was the first bet you ultimately ended up putting in the account?
Cavaliers to beat the Raptors. Got a nice price on -1.5 games early. That's out to kind of the neighborhood of -200, but Cavs -2.5 games. I'm still seeing +100 or better at several places. Really like that bet quite a bit. This Raptors team has struggled against good squads all season. I think the matchup is really tough. As much as I like Darko Rajakovic as a coach, I think Kenny Atkinson is better. When I look at playoff series, I like to look at coaches, who's the best player, and then kind of the matchups throughout the season. And again, the best player in the series is almost certainly going to be Donovan Mitchell. The second best player could be Mobley, might be Scotty Barnes. But I just think that the Raptors here are outmanned, are undercoached here, and it's just going to be a really tough series for them. It's a team that really thrives on bringing a level of effort that really overwhelms a lot of teams. That's not going to be what happens for Cleveland here. And I know I'm supposed to make a James Harden joke here, but it's still the first round, folks. Cleveland's going to be fine. I think they win this series 4-0 or 4-1.
Yeah, I really like this Cleveland team a lot. I've been somewhat stubborn, and they've been somewhat my Eastern Conference pick just because I do believe in the duo of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. But I don't think that's where you're going for the Eastern Conference, at least to find value on the board in the futures market, correct?
No, I continue to love the Pistons. I've loved the Pistons all season, have bet on them early in the year, middle of the year, and have even taken some more right now. I think this team is starting to be really underrated for what they are. A team that has one of the best players in the Eastern Conference, a guy in Cade Cunningham who can absolutely be the best player in any series throughout this tournament. A coach in JB Bickerstaff, which has done a great job getting this team ready. And as much as it was a bummer to see Cade miss all those games, to miss all the awards and things like that, it was really great for this Pistons team. They found a way to enable Dennis Jenkins to find ways to create offense. I think that this Pistons team, I know they're not an offensive juggernaut, but defensively, they're the best team in the East, and they're also the best rebounding team. So when I think about these matchups here, I cannot wait to bet the Pistons against Cleveland in round 2. I will definitely be on them, -1.5 games, something like that. And then the series versus Boston. I think Boston's going to be favored in that series. Even though I have a ton of Pistons liability already, I'm going to be on the Pistons in that series. I think they match up very well with Boston. Cade should have a good series there, and Duren specifically should really dictate what goes on there. Jalen Duren is, I think, one of the most underrated players in the NBA. If you look at number 2 guys throughout the league, I think he is arguably the best one, maybe even just the best one. You think about guys like Jamal Murray, Jason Tatum, stuff like that. Duren has been just as good as them, if not even slightly better this year. So I love the Pistons. They're anywhere from +450 to +500 to win the East. If you don't already have that in your pocket, go get it.
Something that we were talking about earlier this week was the Hawks and their decision essentially saying, hey, we want to play the Knicks. At least that's what it appeared to be. They are pretty significant dogs, +220 for the series. New York out to -275. But you think this series can actually be pretty close with Atlanta. What do you like?
I played Atlanta +1.5 games here. I sprinkled a little bit on the series money line. Just kind of worried that if we do get to Game 7 in New York, that's just going to be a really big moment for this Hawks team that has barely even played together, let alone together in a big moment like this. But the Knicks, are a team that has a lot of strengths, but also a lot of weaknesses. Jalen Brunson's incredible on the offensive end, is someone you can absolutely exploit on the defensive end, and so is Karl-Anthony Towns. And against a team like the Hawks that don't really have kind of a weak spot offensively or defensively. Now, they don't have anybody as good on offense as Brunson as Towns, but everybody on that team can either shoot, keep the ball moving, generate some sort of offense. So I think regardless of the matchups there, they're going to have some success on the offensive end. Defensively, again, Brunson's fantastic. He always finds a ways to score, but with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, with Dyson Daniels, I just think that's going to be a really tough series for him. He is going to have someone bigger and more athletic on him pretty much the entire game. Again, I do expect the Knicks to win, but at these prices, I'm going to bet the Hawks here. Again, I think they can win this series, at the very least push it to 7 games. So little sprinkle on the Hawks to win the series money line, but also plus 1.5 games.
All right, let's talk about the I think it's like a little bit of a mini heavyweight series. I know you don't really have anything on it, or potentially maybe you do, but Denver and Minnesota, what's your expectation? This looks like it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Anthony Edwards is healthy. We're waiting to see what Watson's going to be for Denver, but what's your expectation for this first-round meeting between those two?
Yeah, it's one where I've been in a lot of disagreement with some of my other sharp friends here. They really like Minnesota. I just haven't seen it from them this season, and I think a lot of people are counting on them to be what they've been the last 2 years. I just haven't seen that this season from them, where as this Nuggets team is kind of peaking at the right time. They finished the season with, I think it was 12 wins in a row, with a couple big wins, especially that one over the Spurs. Jokic seems to be healthy. The turnover issues for him seem to be gone. Murray's had his best season of his career. Aaron Gordon looks just fine after missing a lot of games with injury. Long term, they will need Peyton Watson. Obviously, they'd rather have Peyton Watson for this series, but even without him, I think the Nuggets can win this series and win it kind of comfortably. I have it Nuggets 4-2. That's the way I'm kind of seeing it here. But again, we'll see. Minnesota has been great in this series over the past couple of years. They've been as good against Denver as any team, and maybe they do have it. I just don't see it with Minnesota. I think, again, a lot of people are handicapping this team as if they're the same team from the last 2 years. I don't see it. I think Denver wins.
Noops, great stuff. Appreciate the breakdown.
My pleasure, guys. Looking forward to talking again. Best of luck until then.
Yes, enjoy all of the postseason action. By the way, Nuggets minus 1.5 games in terms of the series spread, minus 155 there. And as we talk about this each and every day, the playoffs, every single game matters, as does every bet. And VSiN Pro gives you daily best bets, real-time betting splits for both DraftKings and Circa. Right now, all of our AI prop projection tools for the NBA, for Major League Baseball, as well for inquiring minds, available right now for free if you want to check it out. But you want to get ready before the postseason is really dug in. Get ahead of the action now. Start today for just $9.99, or you can save 50% with that annual subscription. Head over to vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. You want to hear more from Noops? Make sure you check him out on X @_Noops, doing a great job over there at FTN Network. We got to step aside. When we come back, we'll update you on some of the live scores in Major League Baseball and our first look at the NHL card for tonight. Stick around.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, lots of action going on right now in Major League Baseball as we welcome you back to VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Arizona pulls back ahead, up 7-5 over the Baltimore Orioles as we are in extras right now. Cleveland and St. Louis still tied at 1. Boston surged ahead 7-1 over the Minnesota Twins as we sit right now.
Those are scores that are happening. Yes, indeed.
I mean, you specifically have asked for this game to be in the bottom right.
Actually,
so
I didn't want to say I didn't want to say anything to our crew, but I actually asked for Arizona-Baltimore, and this is definitely not it. But they're busy. I don't want to force anybody to do anything else, and I never like to ask multiple times. I'm very similar like at restaurants. I'm not a sender backer unless it's just like, hey, there's a live bird on my plate.
I have had like an insect thing before. I ordered a salad at a really nice restaurant, and I had a ladybug in it.
Oh, that's not bad. You can eat that.
I would
Ladybug.
prefer not to eat the ladybug, but
Ladybug.
I felt very odd looking down at the ranch in my salad and seeing it move.
Oh, it was in the ranch.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on like the leaves.
No, it was just.
As ladybugs
well,
are
I'm
wont
sure
to
it
do.
originally came from being in the leaves, but then once the salad was prepared.
Bro. So yesterday I was out on my jaunt, right? Getting outside.
Is that a jog?
Yeah, doing my thing. And I can't even say it.
Doing my thing.
I saw a baby bird had fallen out of the nest. It was just, its carcass was just in the middle of the thing. I almost stepped on it. It was terrible. It made me feel awful. Yeah. Oh yeah, dead as hell.
Oh no, that's so sad.
I mean, Charles Darwin, don't fall out of the nest. But still, it was terrible. Flies all over it. Been there for a while.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very sad, and maybe you should have kept that to yourself.
I kicked it off the road. We moved on.
I don't think you did not. Okay. Good
Got it.
Lord. Let's get into a little hockey talk.
Suck, bro. And then I punted that thing across the street.
You. We got 6 games coming up in the National Hockey League tonight. To recap some of what happened yesterday, Mammoth did what we needed to, although it's kind of a crazy back and forth. They were up 4-1. Was it 4-1? 3-1. Anyways, they give up this entire lead, essentially, and I'm like, okay, great. They should still win, but we're going to lose the puck line play. Goal scored in the last 30 seconds. So we end up winning on the puck line there as well. Meanwhile, neither of the 2 Pacific Division teams that I was backing on, because you really are in a position where you want to win these games, they ultimately didn't do it. So the Mammoths secured the top spot in the wild card. We're still waiting to figure out what the hell's going to happen with the Pacific in that second wild card. The Wild didn't have 10 regulars in their lineup yesterday and still beat the Anaheim Ducks. Just disgusting. Very frustrating. The Kings lose as well. With how much extra hockey they do play, though, and we've talked about this before, something that I know Jonathan Davis and I both do, and a handful of other hockey bettors, you just, for fun, throw a little bit on there to be overtime at 3-1, because they keep on still pricing it at that, even though the Kings have set a record for how many overtime games they've played this year and just continued to add to it. So that saved me a little bit on the back end, is just a fun bet that I threw in, but still ridiculous what's going on right now. We'll see if the Pacific is decided tonight as the Vegas Golden Knights take on the Seattle Kraken. We'll get to the card in a moment. Before we do, I did want to play one thing, because I thought coming into today, JVT, that maybe we were going to talk about Alex Ovechkin. Was it his final game of his career yesterday, and to finish on an 82-game season, all of this stuff. Instead, following the Caps Columbus Blue Jackets game, everyone is talking about Blue Jackets head coach Rick Bowness for the way he laid into his team after a meaningless game at the end of the regular season. Take a listen.
All you got to do is look at the stat sheet. 3 hits, 23 giveaways. I don't know if I'm back, but if I'm back, I'm changing this culture. These guys, they don't care. Losing is not important enough to them. It doesn't bother them. How can you go out and play like that? Should have done this about a month ago. But this is why we are where we are. This is why we're out of the playoffs. That kind of effort. Losing, you have to hate losing. I don't care if it's a meaningless game. I don't care. Show up and compete. 3 hits, 23 giveaways. What else you want to know?
You reached them for so long after you got here. How did it stop? Where did it stop?
Because it got tough. Because it got hard. Like we talked about after the Olympic break. It's going to get harder. So everything's good as long as it's going their way. And now it gets tough, we don't want to battle back. And that's what's happened over the last a couple of weeks. That's all that's happened. We're going to change that. If I'm back, I don't know if I'm back. Don and I will talk. We'll get to that. But man, oh man, some of those guys are so lucky the season's over and there's no practice tomorrow. Anyways, there's no more games.
Did he want to bag skate him? It's crazy. And listen, they did close the season on a pretty rough stretch, 2-8-1 to end the regular season, 0-6, their last 6 at home. Lots of reason to be frustrated. It is kind of stunning to look at a post-game stat sheet and only see 3 hits from your team. And we've seen a handful of players today as well, with the reports from Locker Room Cleanout Day combating some of those statements. And he did lay off a little bit later on in the press conference, but obviously this is all making the rounds because of how adamantly he laid it. This game meant nothing.
I think still does matter to an extent, right?
To the fact that he was like, you're lucky we don't have a game tomorrow because I'm going to wreck you at practice. That's crazy.
Yeah, why? What are you talking about?
And he even said it there. He's a month too late. He's at least 2.5, 3 weeks too late. This is a speech that you shouldn't be making on the last day of the regular season. You should be making it weeks ago.
I mean, we don't know if he did some sort of thing like that in the behind the scenes, right?
I feel like if he did, there would have been some sort of knowledge of that.
I don't know. I kind of like that stuff. If you suck, you suck.
You don't like it when J.J. Redick does it.
No, I think he handled that unprofessionally when you talked about ignoring Vanderbilt when he was trying to talk to him. That's something completely different. That's not talking to him.
That's not the first and only time we've played J.J. Redick sound that you've been critical of.
Of course. No, I think that I wonder doing it in public and not in private is going to work out, especially when you do things like do that to guys who are not named LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves. But actually calling your guys out on the carpet, if it's just, and if you do it every once in a while, I think matters. You know, I've also been critical of Ime Udoka because Udoka at times, it seems his only strategy is to call a timeout, call his team a bunch of a-holes, and then walk away. Like at some point that expires, and you can't really get anything done there, and you stop communicating, stop reaching some of these guys. So obviously, I don't know. But I mean, tough love is sometimes warranted. I was preparing to tell you how bad you were today after the show.
Thank you.
It seems like a good enough time to tell you right now. So
I think I've had a pretty solid day.
Honestly, I think I should have done this a month ago. We really need to have a talk.
Okay, that's save that for off the air. You know, we are as a team, we like to handle our issues in private.
Correct.
You know, try to keep it in house. That said, looking ahead to today. And again, like I feel bad for Columbus because they really did have everything on the table for them with how well they played prior to the break and then just came out flat. Today, I'm curious your opinion on this because you've been following so much of the Golden Knights and the Pacific Division race in general. The Kraken and Golden Knights going head-to-head. Vegas is a massive favorite. It's peaked at $3 a handful of places. Even on the puck line right now, I'm looking at the number at DraftKings, minus 118 for them laying a goal and a half in this spot. They clinched home ice in the first round following Anaheim's loss yesterday to Winnipeg. Need 1 point against Seattle or the Oilers to lose to Vancouver in any fashion tomorrow in order to ultimately win the Pacific. I think they do. I've seen a lot of comments coming out from John Tortorella that he's going to go full go for this, wants to win this game, wants to close out the regular season on a high note, be 7-0-1 going into the playoffs, all of that. And I believe that, so I would tend to want to say Vegas wins and covers the puck line in this spot, gets a little bit of revenge from the game against Seattle a week or so ago that they should have won and didn't in overtime.
Shootout, yeah.
But here's my question. If they lose this game, they actually probably get an easier matchup in the playoffs. So does that kind of thing come into your mind, or you just want to be playing at the caliber you need to be playing at?
I would assume that if you listen to Tortorella, that you're probably taking him at his word and that they want to try to win this thing.
Yeah.
My qualm is, as we said yesterday, it's going to be the same answer generally for me in a lot of these games is, are we just pricing the favorite too high considering what they have to achieve? You know, you got a split yesterday in the two games that I brought up, right? It was the Carolina and New York game, and then it was Calgary and Colorado, where it just seemed like the teams that were getting priced, were a little too high in some instances. Now, the Colorado game was actually more about the situation for Colorado than anything else, but still, Carolina, I mean, you got nothing to play for. What's going on?
Cale Makar did end up playing, by the way. He factored into all 3 goals. Nazem Kadri also, who we didn't think was going to play in the regular season, he did, so that factors in.
So I wonder if maybe we're just pricing this a little too high, given what's at stake for Vegas at minus 298.
I think, yeah.
So my initial lean would be like I would take a shot price-wise at plus 240 only because of the way it's priced. But it's not like this Kraken team is firing on all cylinders.
Sure.
They're 7-15-2 in their last, 24 games. They've been awful. That win against Vegas snapped, what was it, like a 6-game losing streak, 7-game losing streak? So I don't really want to trust Seattle, but I do think pricing-wise it would be Kraken or nothing for sure.
I do think that this is overpriced.
Yeah.
And yet, I think Vegas wins, and I think they cover the puck line. So if you can find maybe a cheaper price on that angle, or to JVT's point, if you just want to throw a dart and take a shot in the dark on the plus 240 to see if you can get a little bang for your buck, I wouldn't fault you on it. Again, 6-0-1 under Torts to this point, an opportunity to win the Pacific Division. If they do win it, they'll have that first round matchup cemented against the Utah Mammoth, who has wild card 1. Still to be determined what happens with wild card 2 and the order of finish in the Pacific Division with Anaheim and the Los Angeles Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton will close out the season tomorrow, as I mentioned, against Vancouver.
I have a hockey question for you on the other side.
Okay, we have that. There are series prices available as well now that the Eastern Conference is all completely set. There is one bet I have made there. Still a lot to be determined as we discuss, though, in the West. Plus lots of Major League Baseball, full card coming up throughout the course of the day when we return on Money Moves.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you got a group chat full of hot takes, Cut was built for you. Cut's a social betting platform that lets you bet directly against your friends and other users on basically anything. Sports, politics, pop culture, even personal bets on those topics you can't really say out loud. Every bet is fully customizable and pre-funded, which means no more chasing someone down when they lose, no flaking, no excuses. Just results. When Matt Brown didn't pay up Adam Hill when we had our Olympics at Dave & Buster's, we didn't have to chase him down if we had Cut. Now you can get a 20% deposit bonus on your first deposit when you use promo code VSiN. Head to cut.com, KUTT.com, or download in the App Store. Use the promo code VSiN. Back here on Money Moves, I'm Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony alongside as well. I had a hockey question for you. We do have matchups tonight that are between teams that are eliminated, obviously, and have nothing. Generally, in the association, what will happen is these teams won't play any defense. We'll just get up and down the floor, and you'll see some of these angles being, let's play these games over the total. Yeah. Would you follow the same angle with these teams that are playing for nothing tonight?
I could see that, for sure. I mean, that's not something from my personal vantage point with me betting hockey, and I think everybody has their own philosophy. I am, at least I have had historically better success on winners and losers than I have with totals. So I had a really tough, although don't talk to me this week, but I had a tough stretch with totals earlier this season to where I kind of just stepped aside from them a little bit. That said, I think thematically that makes a lot of sense, right? It's the very end of the season. You're not in a position where you want to risk getting injured or putting your body on the line, blocking a ton of shots. And feels like a situation where there'll be more open ice for sure, compared to, especially once we get to the postseason here. The game changes so much when you get to the playoffs in terms of style that you're likely, and there are certain teams like the Oilers, for example, where you're not going to be consistently targeting unders on, but big picture, probably more unders than you would overs just based on stylistically how these teams play. There is another angle for tonight's slate that I would like to discuss with you briefly, and I brought this up on a numbers game earlier today with Gil and Kelly.
You were on A&G?
Yes.
I'll be on tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Look at us. The money moves.
I just told you that like 3 minutes ago.
This is our audience that has not heard that.
What'd you tell Gil and Kelly?
That there is a potential, in honor of going on with Gil and Kelly. I was looking at some of the stuff today, and I was like, I think that there is an opportunity for a potential Tankapalooza brain dead parlay option with some of these teams that, to your point, are out of it, but also trying to lock up their position lottery-wise. And I put together the Lightning and Red Wings and the Senators to beat the Rangers, Panthers, and Leafs. Pays around plus 355. Shop around. I know one listener from earlier this morning said they had a little odds boost thing, got it up to 4-1. But the Leafs need to stay in the top 5 in order to keep their pick. Otherwise, it gets shipped off to Boston. The Panthers need to stay in the top 10. Otherwise, their pick will go to the Blackhawks. And the Rangers are currently in 3rd on the draft lottery list, but a win tonight would move them to 4 and have a team like Calgary leapfrog them ultimately. So all of these teams want to lose to be in a position to keep their current standing in the lottery.
Sounds like a game of numbers.
Could be.
All right, I like it. And,
on a numbers game.
Unlike these parlays in the NBA, where you're getting 6 legs and laying like minus 105.
Yeah, you actually get some bang for your buck with this one, which is pretty nice because they're not huge favorites on the other side, but just a little bit of fun if you're looking for something in these final days of the NHL's regular season. A lot of things we want to talk about today in Major League Baseball, but one is something that we brought up in our season previews diving into the year. Today, for inquiring minds, is April 15th.
Oh, yeah.
There is one team in Major League Baseball who is winless on this day for the last 15 years. Should we fade the Tampa Bay Rays once again today, taking on the Chicago White Sox? They're minus 115 favorite, Chicago minus 105, run total 8.5 in this one. Should we take the home Sox with Sean Burke on the hill, knowing what we know about the history of this Rays team?
I mean, I feel like we should just bet the Rays, actually, just because everybody's on
just
this now.
Just to bump the trend?
Yeah. We have been waiting for this, as we noted.
Put a calendar. Didn't you write a calendar
I was going to say, I was about to pull this up, and this popped up like months ago, and I was like, bet against the Rays on April 15th. What is that? And we had to go back and look, and I found it. Yeah, so, look, this is just a weird trend, obviously. There is no correlation to the 2011 Tampa Bay Rays to this day here, but it is fun. And right now it's like a near pick. White Sox like minus 109. So I would say, sure, why not? Now, in all seriousness, Sean Burke, who gets the start for the Chicago White Sox right now, through 2 starts and 3 appearances in 15 innings, has pitched admirably. And one could argue that he is actually due for a little bit of a better stat line than what he has gotten here. 3.60 ERA, 196 fielding independent over those 15 innings. Stormy, look at some of the key numbers that I at least like to look through. What are the contact numbers? Is he getting blasted? What's going on? He's only given up 1 barrel and a few hits. Hard hit rate's up there like 41.9%, but no barrels there for him. So I think you can make the case that Burke could hold down this Rays lineup and maybe give his team a shot to pull this off. And obviously, the pricing would tell you that too. Sulcer's going to get the start for Tampa Bay. Haven't seen much of him. It's going to be a bullpen game, it would seem. 6 appearances, 9 innings for him. So you're not going to go deep. You just got to guess how the rest of this rotation is going to shake out, or excuse me, this pen's going to shake out. So I can understand on a Johnny Holstaff game here that Chicago might be a little alive to extend this losing streak on this fateful day for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Okay, you are our MLB guy lately. You've been dialed in not just from a fantasy perspective, but you've been betting it pretty much every day at this point. I couldn't help but notice in the best bets today, just one NBA play. There was no Major League Baseball. Did you have still some leans? Did you end up firing on something small that you didn't want to make official?
I want to talk about one or two games if we have the time here. Let's go to Houston and Colorado. So we finally see it. Hell hath frozen over as the Houston Astros yesterday finally get off the schneid and get a win over the Colorado Rockies. Now today, they're a $1.94 favorite. Jose Quintana is going to get the start for the Colorado Rockies. Just 1 start so far, so not a ton to go off of for Quintana. It's worth pointing out that last year, again, you're talking about admirable stat lines, was fine for the Milwaukee Brewers over the course of 131 and 2/3 innings and 24 starts. Put together a pretty decent campaign. 492 expected, fielding independent, 396 ERA. So we'll call him like a baseline average starter, slightly above average for what he did for Milwaukee. First start for Colorado Rockies, did not go particularly well. 4 1/3 there, got tagged for 2 earned runs, walked 2 more guys than he struck out. It was on the road against Miami, so take with that what you will. The reason why I bring this up is Spaghetti, one of the better nicknames in baseball. Spencer Arrighetti is going to get the start today for the Houston Astros. For those who don't know, and I would extend this out to you, Stormy, Spencer Arrighetti was one of those guys that if you looked at his career, and especially you go back to, I think was it last year? It was last year, and at times 2024, because that's where he pitched 145 innings. But this has been the dragon, the high that I've been chasing for a little bit. At one point, we were watching him on primetime. I called him the most unlucky pitcher in Major League Baseball because you looked at some of the swing and miss numbers and the strikeout stuff and all this stuff in between, and Arrighetti had a lot of good underlying metrics, but he was just getting tagged. Fly balls were going out of the park at a really high rate, and it just wasn't really working out for him. We haven't really seen that come together, and I do wonder if maybe he was in pretty good form in AAA before he got called back up here. 126 ERA, 257 FIP at the AAA level so far this year. Can he put it together and give the Astros a shot at winning this game today? But I don't want to lay $1.94. Yeah. I mean, this seems like a really high price for a guy that in the majors never really put it together over the last 2 seasons, and for a pretty solid, we'll call it, or average starting pitcher on the other side, just coming off of 1 start, which we can't really buy too much into. And the larger sample size last year said Quintana was serviceable. So all of this to be said, lean a little bit toward the Rockies, actually, just from the price. But do I want to sweat out the Rockies and hope that they can beat their Astros today? Not so much, but I do think from a price standpoint, it would be Colorado or nothing today between them and Houston.
Okay, you said there were a couple. What's the other game that was on your radar?
Well, I mean, selfishly, I would like to point out that the Angels took one and beat the absolute tar out of the Yankees yesterday. But it's also worth pointing out, Kahanowitz is going to get the start. He's going to oppose Luis Gil. Gil's start did not go particularly well. Angels lineup, though, a little shorthanded. The suspension has finally been handed down over the last 20 minutes. So Soler, his suspension went from 7 games to 4. He will not be available tonight. He is going to start serving it today. So Soler is going to be out of a lineup which has been really, really effective, not only in this series, but just since the start of the year, essentially, how good they've been, especially from a power standpoint. But you do wonder, again, we've talked about the pricing of this series quite a bit. The first game against them with Yusei Kikuchi getting the start, took the 1.5. They stayed inside of that. Yesterday, we talked about, they were like $1.80 $1.85, $1.90 Yankees. Guess what? They lose 7-1. And now here we are again with Kahanowitz at least performing admirably enough to put the Angels lineup in position to win some of these games. And the Yankees still getting priced at like $1.86. I think, again, this is a price point thing where Kahanowitz is good enough and the lineup is great. Trout's hitting the ball really well. Yeah, Solaire's not going to be out there, but that's fine. He's one part of a massive puzzle that I think the Angels are maybe getting a little mispriced here and could be live once again at the price point where we're at with the market.
This is ridiculous, but I still can't get out of my head that Arrigetti's his nickname is Spaghetti. I really like that.
It's a really good nickname,
That
right?
is a solid nickname. I feel like we've talked about this before on the show. Giada, the chef, I wonder if she would call him
Who's that?
Arrighetti. Because the way she always over-enunciates the Italian stuff.
Yes.
Like spaghetti. It's crazy to me how she goes from normal American English, and then when there is an Italian word, the change-up is crazy.
I don't think many, yeah.
Okay. My last name has also been mispronounced as if it were to be a pasta. Somebody called me Stormy Buonantony once. It's always something. Okay, we got to step aside. Hear that music. Don't laugh at me. When we come back, best bets for the day. I know JVT has something official in one of tonight's play-in games, and I have added some hockey. Stay with us.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, time to wrap it up as we welcome you back to this Wednesday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Remember, if you missed any of the program, you can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you as we wrap things up. We're going to get into our best bets like we do each and every day. But before we look forward, got to briefly look back here, check in with how we did yesterday. And your Blazers came through.
Yep, Trailblazers +3. Didn't look like it was going to happen, but ultimately they do. Not only just cover the 3, they win the game outright. So I guess no sweat in terms of the actual final result. But that was it for yesterday. So hopefully we can continue on this path. As we talked about, fell flat on my face. There we go. I can get through it. At the end of the regular season with the 2 losses on a Friday that closed us out. But right back on the horse, and we'll see if we can continue to keep this going.
Weight loss always on your mind. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a co-host that's constantly calling you fat and motivating you.
Things I would never
all I
do.
think about. But yes, I am.
You're like my husband. He said, look, all the time. He constantly says, oh, yeah, Stormy, you don't even like me. You just call me a fat blank. And that's something I've never said to him in my life. I think that's your own internal motivation, like Michael Jordan just finding ways to be angry at people.
I'm like Georgia at the end of the national championship game when what was the player? Like, they said we'd be 8-5. Yeah. Like, nobody said that.
No, actually, no one said that in all. 2-2 for me yesterday. Both of the Mammoth plays end up getting home, albeit what looked like it was going to be a pretty easy puck line win for Utah ended up being a sweat into the final minute of the game. But we got there. Kings and Ducks,
Tried to warn you
however,
about these.
disgusting, so frustrating, and they have no one to blame but themselves here. The Ducks especially. How you lose that game against a Minnesota Wild team that has 10 of their regulars out of the lineup makes no sense. You lost to an AHL team, and you're trying to be informed to go into the postseason.
What'd you call them? What's their affiliate?
The Iowa Wild. That's basically who you played. And, the recent stretch for Anaheim has been brutal. So whoever does get them in the first round, just parlay whoever they're playing with somebody else because you're going to have a lot of fun knocking Anaheim out relatively early. That said, looking to today and moving forward, I mentioned earlier, all of the Eastern Conference rounds are officially set, and I did end up firing on one thing. I'll probably end up doing a favorites series parlay as well at some point once all of the matchups are set. But until then, I rolled on the Flyers, +140 to beat the Penguins in the first round. I said it earlier on a numbers game, Pennsylvania East versus Pennsylvania West. It'll be a fun series. I agree that the postseason is better with Sidney Crosby in it. I just don't think that it's going to be a very long-lived playoff run here. Vladar in net has been a true difference maker for the Philadelphia Flyers to this point. Porter Martone has helped set the tone down the stretch, really done a nice job providing a little bit of a spark for the Flyers. Won 6 of 7 to close out the regular season, 18-6-1 since March 11th, and I think they keep it rolling in the first round against Pittsburgh. I also, for tonight, I did it. Golden Knights puck line against the Kraken. Get the win by margin, get redemption, and you should. I was going back through the game that they played last week against Seattle, which is the lone loss so far under the John Tortorella era. They led this game 2-0 and 3-1 and ended up having to go to overtime in a shootout in this one. Seattle had this like weird puck bounce goal that just gave them momentum from there on, and the tide shifted in the third period. I don't think you're going to have that. I think even with it being a potentially better matchup for the Golden Knights, if they don't win this game, they really want to win it. John Tortorella said as much, that they're going all out and having everybody play as hard as possible in this one. They want to be peaking at the right time. So win by margin. And then, as we talked about last segment, we're doing the Gil Alexander NBA special, but in the National Hockey League today, the brain dead parlay, Tankapalooza, whatever you want to call it, fading these teams that need to lose in order to be in the positions that they want to be in the lottery, and for a couple of these teams keep their picks. So we're going Tampa Bay, the Detroit Red Wings, and Ottawa Senators. Pair all of those together on the money line, plus 355 in fades of the Leafs, Panthers, and Rangers.
When does the postseason start?
Saturday.
Okay, so it starts on Saturday. I was waiting to see what the schedule was looking like. Because I was going to ask that Thursday, so the Seattle Kraken, that is, by the way, I have the Orlando Magic +2. We talked about that. I know we had that on the graphic. I should probably do that before I follow up on anything else. Magic +2 today against the Philadelphia 76ers. It's 1.5. I still think it's playable. I think it should be pick. I think that they're going to be able to handle Philly without Joel Embiid, win and move on. And we'll see how they perform in the postseason. I'm not as high as Orlando in the big picture, but I think tonight it's a good matchup for them. Anyway, it's a back-to-back for Seattle. They play Thursday against Colorado. That's got to be the ultimate, 1-2-3 Cancun game, right? I know Colorado, again, doesn't have anything to play for, but given the way, if you're right and they lose this game, and the way the season ended for them, Colorado's professional enough, as we saw last night, that they're probably going to put a good effort forward here going into the postseason. That would probably be a big fade spot for Seattle. Yeah,
I would agree. Tomorrow's going to be a weird day in the NHL because theoretically almost everything could be decided today. So we'll see.
St. Louis at Utah, Anaheim at Nashville, San Jose at Winnipeg, Los Angeles at Calgary, Vancouver at Edmonton, and then Seattle at Colorado. Well, Edmonton is going to win the division tomorrow, so that's going to matter.
Are they? Yeah. So you don't think Seattle's going to lose today then?
I'm just saying if you're right.
Yeah, okay. Although Vancouver, look at them. They get the win yesterday. That's all I'm saying. They're very frustrating.
I needed to follow up. I didn't look at them yesterday.
They beat the Kings. Yeah, they beat the Kings yesterday.
Yes,
so they're not the easiest out in the world at all. Tomorrow will be an interesting day in the National Hockey League. I'm just excited to get all of these series prices out, which, by the way, I guess I can go through them here real quickly since we have a few minutes to go. In the Eastern Conference, so we talked about it already, that Carolina ends up getting the top seed in the Eastern Conference. They're going to have home ice throughout the East final here. -165 favorites against the Senators, +140. A little bit weird how the Canes have attacked these last few days as well, resting some, kind of picking their moments of which lines and which pairings they want to rest and then kind of swapping them. So getting different guys, different time off, laying 1.5 games if you think that they can get it done that way against Ottawa, who has been a very trendy pick all of a sudden down the stretch of the regular season with the way that their goaltending had started to shift. +120, that price on Carolina if you want to lay the 1.5 games, -140 if you want to take it with Ottawa. Penguins, Flyers, we already mentioned. Pittsburgh, though, -170 in the series. The aforementioned Flyers, who I have my money on, +140. And then we go down to Sabres, Bruins, which is officially set. Buffalo with home ice there, -180 favorites for the series. You can get Boston at +150. Kicking myself, by the way. I didn't bet the Bruins yesterday, who ended up having a shutout win. And I told you in a commercial break, I was like, yeah, their coach said that they're going to go all out and win this thing. And I just didn't think of some fun ways to dive in on that game, so a little bit mad at myself there. And then Lightning and the Canadiens set as well. Tampa with the home ice advantage there. Big number, -245 against Montreal, 2-1.
Pretty nice for Boston. I don't know when they're going to play on the weekend, but their season's already done.
Chilling.
So they get all these games off. I mean, and I'm sure Buffalo tonight is not going to play many guys, right? But still, I mean, still got a game left, and then you got to turn back around and play on the weekend.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get this thing figured out. I forgot to mention, there is one series that's set in the Western Conference as well, which we've known this for a while now.
Just whether or not who had home ice, right?
Correct, but home ice is settled now, so it will be Dallas against the Minnesota Wild. Stars -125, the Wild +105. I have a future on Minnesota from the preseason, 40-1, that I would really like to see come to fruition, but the Western Conference, obviously, and especially their division, you have to go through the Colorado Avalanche as well. So, not only are you taking on a really tough opponent in the Dallas Stars in round 1, then potentially Colorado after that. And it's an uphill battle with what a juggernaut the Avs have been to this point. They're your favorite for a reason. But in this series, I mentioned this earlier, too. I think that the Wild could be one of those little kind of upset Cinderella-y type teams. They did such a good job adding throughout the course of the regular season. We talked a lot when we were betting a lot of those wild overs and first period overs, how different the offense had kind of shifted and become a driving force after the Quinn Hughes edition. They've got some really high-end talent, and I don't know how to bet this series, and maybe this is something we can talk about a little bit tomorrow. I think it's a long series. I think it's a highly competitive series, but I don't want to lay some of these prices with the over 5.5 or even the plus 1.5 games with the Wild. So what are some ways you can attack it? If you wanted to do, you see the series total games, 6 games, 2-1, 7 games, plus 210. I think it lands in one of those wheelhouses. Do you pick one or the other? How do you approach it? So maybe we can dive into that a little bit more tomorrow.
How does the goaltending situation work out for Minnesota? Because Gustafsson in the last few starts has not been pretty good, right?
Jesper Wallstedt, he had his jersey, like his name on his jersey was spelled wrong yesterday.
Okay.
How does that happen?
I don't know. That also doesn't answer my question.
But I think that their goaltending will do enough.
So I was just looking over some of their numbers.
But even if it doesn't, their decor should be fine. So hopefully not have to give up enough. Sorry, don't laugh at that. Hopefully they're not giving up a lot of those high slot chances.
And what I'm referencing here for our boy Gustafsson, if you look at his last 4 starts, he's got a goals against average of over 4 and a save percentage of 83. And in fact, you can stretch back to his last 6.
It hasn't been great.
Yeah, he's not been playing well at all.
Remember when when we were talking about how amazing the goaltending was for the Wild earlier this season? Yeah, that's gone away, but maybe in the postseason things change up a little bit. And like we're talking about in general with the stylistic changes that you get in postseason hockey, tighter defense, tighter checking, all of those things, maybe less high danger chances that are coming their way. We got to call it a day. That's it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Keep it locked right here, though. Follow the money with Mitch and Paul coming up. And a couple of your VSiN favorites on deck as well. Mike Palm on the program today, Matt Humans. Enjoy and get set for play-in day 2 coming up tonight on Amazon Prime.
Mitch Mogging, Paul Howard.